2026 tight ends to target and avoid. I'm giving you guys a bite-sized look at the 2026 tight end class to help you guys kind of position your dynasty leagues. If you guys need tight ends, how it's looking next year, maybe give you guys some ideas for Devy leagues as well. A reminder that I've already done this video for wide receivers and running backs. So if you're looking for the more important positions, obviously I'm a notorious tight end hater around here. Check out that video. The quarterback position is coming next, but I am currently building the quarterback prospect model, which is going to take me some time. And I didn't even do a video for the 2025 class. So I'll probably do both of those in one video in the next one. And then also make sure to check out the 2025 version of this because I go through in depth how the model works. And of course I tackled the 2025 tight ends to target and avoid there as well. And if I forget any 2026 prospects that you guys know of, leave them down below for me in the comments. But let's get into it. So as I did for running backs, as I did for wide receivers, I'm projecting a couple of things here, and we're basically going to prognosticate how good the class is, who the top names are, who are maybe guys that are overrated in the eyes of like the NFL draft community right now. I'm grading them on a curve, year 3 college players, ergo guys that have played 1 and 2 years already going into year 3 who could be in the class but could also go back to school, will have their score divided by 90 over 100 to adjust for the fact that they're not as much data for them. And then players who are entering their 4th college season, meaning their senior season, it's divided by 95 out of 100. Because otherwise, the year 5, year 6 college prospects would probably be overinflated in terms of how good of prospects they are. And the underclassmen would be underinflated. And we obviously want to reward young players because generally we like to get early declares and get guys that are still 21, 22 years old in our rookie draft. So that's how we're going to kind of adjust for that. And I did that for the wide receivers and the running backs as well. Heights, weights, 40 times, RAS scores. We don't have that official data yet. Obviously, we haven't had the combine for 2026 at this point in time. So we're going to rely on the team websites, rely on NFL Draft Buzz and Draft Scout and some of these services that project heights, weights, and 40 times and give RAS kind of projections based on that. And that'll give us a good idea of who's going to stand out. Of course, it's going to change. All of this stuff is subject to change. But we do have a decent idea of, is this guy athletic? Is he not athletic? Is he big? Is he not big? That kind of thing. And we're going to go off of projected draft capital because, of course, the 2026 NFL draft has not happened yet. So we're going to use NFL mock draft database, which kind of combines all the mock drafts going on. We have very few film inputs overall. So keep in mind of all of the 3 categories, film, analytics, and traits, this will be the one that changes the most because we don't have my official film grades yet, which is an input in the model. Don't have NFL.com's film grades, which is an input in the model. We have no official draft capital. The consensus big board hasn't been refined either. So we're going to start with the top tight end in the 2026 class. You guys might be wondering, how good is the best tight end? Is it a Bowers caliber prospect? Is it even a McBride or a Warren or a Loveland? The answer is no. As of now, the theme of this video is going to be maybe if he can put it all together, because that's pretty much what all of these players are looking like right now. The current tight end 1 in the model is Kenyon Sadiq, University of Oregon tight end, who was stuck behind Terrence Ferguson last year. When given opportunities, he was really, really solid efficiency-wise, 2.1 yards per route run, had 27 targets on just 140 routes run. Best comparables in the model are Tucker Kraft and Mike Gesicki. He is 6'3", 245 pounds, 4.55 speed, very good speed for a young tight end who's prototypical size at 6'3", 245. That's the same size as Bowers. To get drafted in the early 2nd round, which is where he's being projected as of right now at 46th overall, is pretty solid. And again, NFL mock draft database is so far away from the NFL draft. We have no idea what the actual draft capital of these guys are going to be, but we're using this as an input to just give us an idea. If this guy's a 2nd round pick, how good of a prospect is he? And again, there's no tight ends in the model that rank really higher than Kenyon Sadiq at the early 2nd round. There's no 1st round tight ends in NFL mocks right now. So as of now, the class currently looks pretty weak. Like if the first tight end goes off the board at 46 overall, that means the class in general is kind of weak. However, there are a ton of guys like Sadiq who, with a big year, would round out a very solid profile. They have efficient production, they have size, they have athleticism, they have traits. The ceiling to the profile of Sadiq, if he has a great year this year, is that he becomes like a Noah Fant caliber prospect because he's a good athlete, has some good size, and it looks like he has some good traits as well. He is the only tight end 1 upside prospect in the class. And to give you guys a reminder, tight end 1 upside prospects, generally from like a hit rate standpoint, are going to hit about 57% of the time. They'll give you like a top 6 to 8 season. So you're looking at pretty good prospects, like both Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and Harold Fannin were all tight end 1 upside prospects. The only problem is they were like higher up on the list. So he would have been tight end 4, Kenyon Sadiq, projecting forward in this year's class. Tight ends 2 to 5 in this class are in the streamer territory of the prospect bucket. And streamers hit at a lower rate, 24%. You get a top 10 season, give or take. Peaks as tight end 1s on the market about 27% of the time. This is where Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor resided in the 2025 class. So again, we're not talking about excellent prospects here, but Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, we're talking, early 3rd round rookie picks, decent prospects, just nothing special, I would say. Tight end 2 is the highest rated senior of the model, and that's Max Klare, formerly of Purdue. He now transfers into Ohio State for his final year, and this is going to be a trend with college football in general, is that a lot of small school guys are going to transfer to big schools in their junior and senior seasons. But you can see some of the comps here, projected to be about a 3rd rounder, similar to like a Hunter Long, a Greg Dulcich, Jatavian Sanders. As of now, Klare posted 684 receiving yards, which was 8th highest in the country at tight end. His touchdowns during his junior season were also at 4 as well. So pretty relatively good production for a tight end prospect. His 2.2 yards per route run was also top 10 in the country. And his PFF receiving grade of 85.6 was 7th in the country. And it was actually 4th among tight ends that are returning to college football, because the highest rated 3 tight ends in the country were Fannin, Warren, and Loveland, who were in this year's class. He's about 6'4", 240 pounds, runs about a 4.70 flat. So size and athleticism isn't anything special. But like I said, Hunter Long, Greg Dulcich, Jatavian Sanders, all apt comparisons, because none of those guys are like exceptional athletes. And again, we haven't really seen those guys like hit at a huge level. I would say the ceiling for this profile type is like Pat Freiermuth or Cole Kmet, where you're probably getting a decent functional tight end that's a usable option, but probably not a guy that's a huge, massive ceiling raiser. And same goes for the next guy, which is Jack Endries from Cal, but now of Texas. So he played for the University of California for 2 years, transfers to the Texas Longhorns this year, and is going to replace Gunnar Helm. You could see his comps here: Terrence Ferguson, who's in this year's class, Mason Taylor, who's in this year's class, and then Hayden Hurst, Cole Kmet, as far as the comparisons that he draws. The good news is here, Jack Endries, despite being projected for 94th overall draft capital, according to NFL Mock Draft Database, he ranks as a prospect very similar to a lot of guys that went in the 1st and 2nd round, like Hayden Hurst, Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor, and Cole Kmet. So good news for him. It looks like he's a bit undervalued according to NFL mocks right now. His 85.4 PFF receiving grade ranks 1 spot behind Max Klare's for 5th among returning college football tight ends. He posted 623 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a 2.13 yards per route run this past year. So again, nothing spectacular, but a 6'4", 240 pounder, expected 4.6 speed. Again, Pat Freiermuth, probably about the ceiling level of a prospect we're looking at here. But for a guy who is a true junior entering this year, could get a lot better, still very young, 21 years old, could really improve his draft stock into a clear like 2nd round caliber asset. These 2 guys, Klare and Endries, are like meat and potatoes, capable, solid prospects at the tight end position, but they're not going to blow the doors off of rookie classes. If we get ceiling raisers of this class, it's probably going to be the next couple guys that I talk about here. These Max Klare and Jack Endries are probably guaranteed going to be top 5 tight ends in the class. The question is, how good of rookie picks are they? Are they 3rd round rookie pick type of guys? Are they 2nd round rookie pick type of guys? We'll have to wait and see what they do in their final season. So tight end 4 is Luke Hasz, I don't know how to pronounce his name, formerly of Arkansas, now of Ole Miss. And he's one of the ceiling raiser tight ends of this class. Now, I hate to be lazy here, but at 6'3", 240 pounds with good speed, according to his profile, kind of sounds a little Evan Ingram-y, who went to Ole Miss as well. 253 yards, 3 touchdowns as a true freshman 19-year-old. Pretty good production. 89.5 receiving grade. Last year, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns, and of course, Arkansas had some NFL receiving talent on the team. Isaac Tesla, 3rd round pick to the Lions. Andrew Armstrong, I believe, went undrafted, but had some good production in college. 2.46 yards per route run his freshman year, career 62.5% contested catch rate, and just 21 years old, heading into his true junior year at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss, if you guys remember from Trey Harris's profile and Jackson Dart's profile, is kind of a wide open offense, one read type of offense. There's a good chance he can really rack up the production this year and get himself into that second round tight end, maybe even first round with good testing conversation. I would say he's definitely a ceiling swing of this tight end 2 to 5 group because he has the size, he has the athleticism, and he has good bones of a good profile. Like his first and second year are great, but you need to tack on that great junior year to make it great. So that's what we need to see out of Luke Hasz, or Luke Hasz, I don't know how to say his name, from Ole Miss, formerly of Arkansas. So tight end 5 is Eli Stowers of Vanderbilt. Now, I would say most people probably assume Eli Stowers is closer to tight end 1 than he is to tight end 5 for a lot of Devy people, a lot of Dynasty people. His comps range from Austin Hooper, Albert O, Jay Sternberger. I have a few concerns, and the major one for Stowers being that he's small. 6'4", 225 is what he's listed at, which is undersized for a tight end. Is he 235? Is he 225? I'm not exactly sure. He is listed with 4.55 speed, which is excellent speed for a tight end. If he is closer to 240 than he is closer to 225. If he runs a 4.55 at that size, that would be excellent. 5th highest receiving grade in the NCAA, period, including Warren, Loveland, and Fannin. So the second highest among returning college football tight ends at an 89.4. So he's a great receiving threat. The question is he a H-back or is he a tight end? And that's kind of the same question we had for Harold Fannin and a couple of other prospects that we've seen over the years, like Brevin Jordan comes to mind as somebody that we didn't really know what to do with. And with a guy like Stowers, you want to be an inline tight end, but just be a great receiving option. That's how you get to Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, some of the best tight ends in Dynasty. He played at 3 different schools already too. Started at Texas A&M, went to a small school after that, and then now at Vanderbilt with a 2.43 yards per out run, 644 yards last year, 5 touchdowns through the air. Despite being undersized, I do think his blocking grades stack up pretty well when you look at them. Again, I can't tell you I've watched his blocking tape, but his grades are good on PFF for blocking. Another strong year, and he'll have a pretty complete profile. And like I said, Austin Hooper, Albert O, these are guys that are decent prospects, and even Austin Hooper had one great year in Atlanta there. So does he have like the best tight end prospect profile in the world? No, but he does have the second highest projected draft capital of this class. So if he's going to get drafted in the second round at 47th overall, that would definitely be really good for him. We'll just have to wait and see, what does the NFL think of Eli Stowers? Do they think of him as Harold Fannin, or do they think of him as more Evan Ingram, David Njoku kind of project inline tight end guy, as opposed to he's just an H-back, Jatavian Sanders, Brevin Jordan type of guy? Moving into the waiver wire tight ends, and these guys are just not great prospects. Realistically, we're going to need a big step from these guys. Elijah Arroyo and Mitchell Evans were in this territory from 2025. And Arroyo, despite going in the second round, was pretty overvalued according to the model. These tight ends hit at about a 10% rate. So you're not looking at a great option here. This is what I would call the sleeper tier. None of these guys really are being drafted at all if you're doing Devy drafts, and all of them are expected to go late day 3 in terms of their actual NFL draft capital next year. But all of them have merit. If you look at Benjamin Brahmer from Iowa State, he's big, man. 6'7", 250, produced 352 yards and 2 touchdowns as a true freshman 2 years ago while competing. If you guys remember, Iowa State, Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins were there. So that's pretty good production considering who he's competing with. And this year, he was okay, but he was banged up for most of the season. He only played like 5 or 6 games. So we kind of have to throw this year's production out. But without those 2 guys there now, Knowles in the NFL, Higgins in the NFL, both, of course, playing for the Houston Texans, maybe we see Benjamin Brahmer have a nice year as far as production-wise, and Rocco Beck could look more his way and throw him the ball a little bit more than he was doing so before, because he had those other 2 great receivers to compete for targets with. So RJ Maryland from SMU would rank so much higher on this list if he wasn't expected to go 248th overall in the draft, according to NFL Mock Draft Database. Now, again, how accurate our NFL Mock Draft Database is to real NFL draft capital a calendar year from now, probably not that accurate, so keep that with a grain of salt. He has prototype size, 6'4", 240 pounds, 4.58 speed projected is really good for that size as well. 2.74 yards per out run this year. As a junior, despite missing time, still had 359 yards and 4 touchdowns in just 7 games. And as a sophomore, produced 518 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he's been pretty productive at SMU. And SMU is not like a slappy of a team. They actually were a top 25 team this year. So I actually really like RJ Maryland. I think he could have another great year and solidify himself as maybe a day 2 caliber tight end in that Terrence Ferguson kind of territory. Tanner Koisial. I have no idea how to say this guy's name. Koisial is what I'm going to say. Koisial of Ball State formerly, but now of Houston. He transfers in. And he has like the best production of anybody here because he was the highest graded tight end in the country, not named Warren, Fannin, or Loveland. So returning college football tight ends, Tanner Koziol is the highest graded one in college football right now from the previous year. He transfers from Ball State, which is a small school, obviously. So he racks up the production, 840 yards, 8 touchdowns this year. But he transfers to Houston. So we get to see him at a Power 5 school. He had 123 targets last year. Maybe he can transfer some of that production over. Basically has like the Harold Fannin profile all over again. Only this year we get to see him against better competition at a bigger school. Has good size too. He's 6'7", 240 pounds. So long, rangy kind of build that he has there to be able to come away with some passes. So we'll have to see with this tier. This group of Benjamin Brahmer, RJ Maryland, and Tanner Koziol, I think could really raise the ceiling of this class. But we have to wait and see what they end up turning into because they would need really good years to round out their profiles at this point in time. Then we get into the final tier. Again, none of these guys are really super interesting, but you have the two Bulldogs, Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky. You have Terrence Carter of Texas Tech, and then you have Joe Royer of Cincinnati. The two Bulldogs, I can start with them. Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky are kind of elevated just because Brock Bowers was a Georgia Bulldog. It feels like everyone, like once Bowers left, everyone's like, oh, Oscar Delp is the next big thing. A Georgia tight end. They're just going to continue the trend and pass the torch. I mean, it hasn't really happened yet. Nonetheless, though, they're getting legit fringe day 2 draft capital. So I have to pay attention to that. And both of these guys have size and athleticism. Oscar Delp is fast. He is listed with 4.52 speed at 6'5", 245. If he's actually that athletic, he will get some legitimate NFL draft buzz. And Lawson Lucky is listed 6'4", 240 pounds with mid 4.6 jets as well. So if one of these guys hopefully emerges, hopefully one of them falls by the wayside and becomes useless and one emerges. And hopefully it's Delp, considering he has the speed. To be able to be a really good option. And Oscar Delp, for those of you guys that are Devy players, has been on the Devy scene for a decent amount of time. So if he were to come out and have a great year, produce like 500 yards, 7 touchdowns or something, I would assume a lot of people would buy into him pretty quickly because he's been on the Devy radar and he was a high recruit and all that kind of stuff. One of these dudes has to produce, though. Otherwise, they're just going to cannibalize each other. Terrence Carter is similar to Koziol because he was at a small school, Louisiana Lafayette, 691 and 4 touchdowns there. Then he transfers to the big leagues with Texas Tech this year, and we'll have to wait and see what he does. He's listed only at 6'2", so kind of undersized for a tight end. He comps kind of like a Dalton Keene, Josiah DeGuara type of tight end, and maybe he's an H-back, maybe he's not, which is not usually good for fantasy purposes. But we'll have to wait and see what he does at Texas Tech this year. And then Cincinnati's Joe Royer must be a film guy. Again, admittedly, I haven't watched film on these players. NFL Draft Buzz has him ranked as the tight end 2 in the class. So he must do something on film that's really good that people are excited about. At 6'5", 255, he runs a 4.67 or 4.65, sorry, which is a good start, but we'll have to wait and see what he does production-wise. He had a great breakout season this year, transferred in from Ohio State where he didn't really do anything for like 3 seasons, had 50 catches, 522 and 3 touchdowns for Cincinnati, and his efficiency was kind of mid. Didn't really have like a great yards per out run, didn't really have great contested catch rate. There's not a whole lot you can point to efficiency-wise that tells you that Joe Royer is a great player other than a guy who just racked up some production. So let's see him up those efficiency numbers in 2025, and then maybe I'll get excited about him. But it piques my interest that he's the tight end 2, according to NFL Draft Buzz, which is like grading film and grading the process here. So this is what the whole class looks like. You see Sadiq at the top there with the tight end 1 upside designation, Klare, Endries, Hasz, and Stowers with the streamer designations, and then a bunch of waiver wire guys. Again, I don't know how this class is going to materialize at this point in time. As of now, it looks like a weak class. As of now, it actually looks a lot like wide receiver does in the 2026 draft, which is, yeah, we can get there if we have a couple great years, a couple great breakout candidates. And there's pebbles. We got clues that we could get a good tight end here emerging here soon, but we don't have it yet. So we can't count our chickens before they hatch here. We don't really have a good tight end class upcoming. The most comparable tight end class we have in terms of makeup is 2020s, which is the Adam Troutman, Harrison Bryant, Cole Kmet, Albert O type of class, which famously hasn't really produced any great fantasy producers other than Cole Kmet, really. So if you're thinking, oh, this is a terrible tight end class that it comps to, I mean, you'd be correct. It's not a very good tight end class that it comps to, but that's how it comps to right now. And if a couple guys emerge, 2 guys have great seasons or something like that, it might look a little bit more like 2019's class where we had Hawkinson and Fant at the top and then a couple of mid-round guys that were interesting. Hopefully it looks more like that because that's kind of what the 2025 class looked like. And then we'll have to wait and see what happens after that because the 2020 class was not good. And that's what this one profiles similarly to. So I would say if you're building a dynasty team thinking, I'm not going to draft tight end in the startup because I can get one next year in the rookie class, you might want to rethink that. You probably want to be drafting 2025 rookie tight ends because it's a better class. Mason Taylor's, Terrence Ferguson's, depth names like Harold Fannin are better bets than the 2026 class at this point in time. And if you guys are in Devy drafts right now, I probably wouldn't mess around taking too many tight ends unless you're near the end of the board and you're running out of names to go into because generally speaking, this class looks like a relative disappointment at the tight end position. And based on what we saw in the running back video, it looks like running back's the strength of the 2026 class. Wide receiver could be good. Tight end could be good. I have more hope for wide receiver than I do for tight end personally. The full draft capital, the full class without draft capital, I think is important to go over as well, because obviously, as I've made reference through this entire video, we're probably not going to be very correct on these draft capital projections a calendar year in the future. Like think about even a couple months before the draft, we're not projecting these draft capital spots very good, especially a calendar year away with a full college football season. That's going to change quite a bit. So based on the profiles as they are right now, without draft capital included, because we have no idea where they're going to go in the draft, these are the best prospects. You could see Luke Hasz actually comes out as the top prospect in the class without the input of draft capital because he's not expected to get drafted very high as of this moment. Kenyon Sadiq, Max Klare, Endries, RJ Maryland, Stowers, and so on is how the class ranks without draft capital. So again, keep all of this information in mind. After I do the quarterback video, which will probably be a week or 2 away because I'm still building the model. And in fact, I'm like still in the infancy stages of building the quarterback model. It's going to take me a while to get that. But once I do the quarterback video, I'm going to double back probably at the beginning of July or so and make a full top 24 tier list of the 2026 class and kind of bucket these guys in terms of what prospect buckets they fit into, how we want to stack up the class, how does this compare an early first round pick to last year's class, how does a mid first round pick compare to last year's class, how does a late first round pick compare to last year's class, an early to mid second, a mid to late second, so on and so forth. I'm going to stack these guys up after I'm done going over the quarterbacks as well so that we have the full picture. How good is the quarterback class? What kind of draft capital are we expecting for them? Running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. How good is this 2026 class really? Because I don't think many people on YouTube are going really in depth on the class like this. They just go, it's a weak class, or it's a strong class, or it's a middling class. They go buy firsts anyways. And that's true. Like, I mean, even if you think this class isn't good, guys are going to emerge. Players are going to come out of the woodworks, and first round picks always go up in value regardless of how bad the class is. So buy first round picks regardless and hope for the best. And like I said, this tight end class is absolutely a hope for the best type of class because as of now, not a whole lot of secured, certified studs that we have at the top of this class. If you enjoyed, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. If you guys want to tinker with the prospect models, you can do that over on flockfantasy.com. The wide receiver model is there. The running back model is there. The tight end model got added a few weeks ago. Check that out if you guys want to tinker around with the inputs and see how the model works and pull ranges of outcomes and all that kind of stuff. It is so fun to do. You can check on, okay, I drafted a bunch of Terrence Ferguson, who are his best comps. Go check that out. And the 2026 prospects will not be in there. I might make like a little PDF file of, the running back class, the wide receiver class, the tight end class, how everything's stacked up, basically the show sheets of the videos that I've been doing here. In case people want that information, I can definitely collect that for you. If you guys want that, I might make an article on the site or whatever for it. But yeah, flockfantasy.com, promo code FSE gets you 30% off, 7 days for free. An annual Mother Flocker gets a free team review. If you guys want to check that out, you can do that. Link down below in the pinned comment and in the description. But with that being said, peace out, and I'll talk to you soon.